Hi, my name is Ellen Breen, and I'm going to be talking about my research regarding writing to learn through the lens of a kindergarten or first grade teacher. Generally, writing to learn activities are short, impromptu, or otherwise informal and low-stakes writing tasks that help students think through key concepts or ideas presented in a course. So, across the school day in different subject areas, reading, writing, math, science, social studies, students would participate in writing activities to express their learning and their understanding through different outlets. Some examples of ways and methods that students can write to learn are journals for different subject areas, argument writing, writing letters, using multimodal representations, annotations, synthesis papers, pre-test warm-ups, and more. Basically, any way in which students can do a quick write to express what they have learned. The focus is not necessarily on the writing mechanics, and the lesson isn't focused on writing. Rather, it's just another opportunity throughout the day to incorporate the very important skill of writing to show what has been learned. Kindergarten students are learning how to write, so how can we expect them to write to learn? To get our youngest learners to view themselves as writers, we must be flexible with our idea of what writing means. Through low-stakes activities, such as interactive journals, persuasive letter writing, and the use of multimodal representations, we can help young students express and strengthen their knowledge, all while developing their writing skills. One strategy to implement is content area interactive journals. Interactive notebooks allow students and teachers to communicate and convey understanding through writing, drawing, diagrams, etc. And within the notebooks, the right side of the notebook is where the teacher would write their notes and their information, and the left side is where the student would interact and solve problems, respond to texts. And this is an interactive journal so that teachers and students can see each other's learning and communicate back and forth. Integrating science and ELA allows an elementary teacher to focus time and energy on teaching important science concepts and instructing students in nonfiction text, informational writing, and speaking skills at the same time. Interactive science notebooks help accomplish this feat. So some ways that interactive journals can be used throughout the content areas are, during reading, students can respond to texts, can utilize high-frequency word and phonics rules that were taught. In my classroom, we use the Lucy Calkins writing and reading curriculum, and sticky notes and interacting with texts through the use of sticky notes is a big component. However, utilizing these in an interactive journal where you can post said stickies and the teacher and the student can communicate back and forth is a great way to utilize this. This also can then be assessed during Fountas and Pinnell benchmarks as written response to text is a component of these assessments. During math, students can use these journals to solve problems. They can use diagrams and illustrations. And curriculum such as Engage New York encourages students to express their thinking and dive further into problem solving and using these journals. Expecting students to explain their thinking through written words and drawings builds off of the oral explanations and critical thinking that is also expected of them. For science and social studies, students can use drawings, writings, labels for observations, for questions and wonderings they have, as well as personal accounts and connections to topics. We use the curriculum STEM scopes, which utilizes CERs, which are claim, evidence, and reasoning. These typically come as a quick assessment at the end of different units. And claim, evidence, and reasoning allow students to communicate science understandings in a written format. Again, it can start off orally, it can then turn into using pictures, diagrams, and eventually into written word. Another strategy is persuasive letter writing. Activities calling for students to write to different audiences require integrating and translating across 3 communicates of language: everyday language, audience language, and scientific language. Also, when students write to someone who isn't a teacher, this encourages them to become the expert and to become a teacher of what they have learned. This strengthens the connections between major concepts and gives them the opportunity to teach and to explain everything they've learned. Also, several studies have found that students can achieve deeper conceptual understanding when they engage in argumentative writing, as opposed to when they engage in expressive writing. Argumentative writing expects the students to really be able to prove their point, and this ties along nicely with some social studies units that we work on, such as looking at fair versus unfair rules and laws. Students could write persuasive letters to the principal, to parents, to government to change rules that they think are unfair. Similarly, as we learn about community helpers, students can write letters asking questions, deepening their thinking, as well as explaining concepts that they've learned to older or younger grade levels, again, to become the expert. Multimodal representations are another writing to learn strategy. Modes of visual supports include the use of supplemental methods of representation, including, but not limited to, graphic organizers, pictures, charts, graphs, diagrams, and maps. And while formats of visual support, such as templates or writing scaffolds, are textual representations that can help students use the information from their modes to assist with written tasks and exercises. So particularly in the younger grades like kindergarten and first grade, when students are still learning to write, being able to use pictures, graphs, diagrams, labels, and building in the written word is a great scaffold. It's also a great way to modify or provide accommodations for students who require those. And the hope is that because it's a low-stake experience, students can add in written expression and sounds, words that they know as they progress, and eventually make that switch to less visuals and more writing. Some examples in the classroom are during science journals and observations, drawing and labeling what has been observed. In responses to texts, drawing your favorite part of the story, drawing the problem, drawing the solution, working on adding labels and building up to incorporating sentences. And in math journals, using diagrams, shapes, drawings to accompany the math work that was done. And again, this ties together the oral practice that they're doing and leads to written expression. Through low-stakes activities such as interactive journals, persuasive letter writing, and the use of multimodal representations, we can help young students express and strengthen their knowledge, all while developing their writing skills. Research has shown that students' understanding of content material is strengthened when expressed through multimodal written expression. Personal questions still linger about the long-term effects of using the right-to-learn approach. These questions are, will kindergarten students' critical thinking skills be significantly improved when they get to late elementary grades? Will narrative writing strengthen as an indirect result of writing to learn? And will reading skills improve? Thank you.